Alright, good evening everybody and welcome to Teach Me Coco, the quick and easy way to learn iOS development. So this will be the first video, hopefully of many, where we address a random topic associated with Coco development. So I really want to get your guys' feedback and find out what you're interested in. If there's a particular problem you're having, if there's a framework you want to use that you'd like me to dig into a little bit and give you my thoughts on. But basically any aspect on development that can be helpful to you guys. Just let me know. The best way to reach me is on Twitter at TeachMeCoco. But for the first video, I want to show you some tools I use to increase my programming productivity. And I think this is a really great topic because it's useful to developers of all experience levels. And hopefully you will find some tools that'll help you program a little bit better and a little bit faster. Okay, so some of the programs I'm going to go over is CopyClip 2, which is a great clipboard manager. Typinator is a text expander. Fuzzy Autocomplete 2 is my favorite Xcode plugin. Karabiner is a program that lets you map the way your keystrokes are interpreted by the computer, and you can do some really cool, useful things with that I'll show you. And then last but not least, I want to go over Git a little bit. I saved Git for last because I'm sure that a lot of developers are already using it, already aware of its power, so that way you can just skip that last segment. But if you're unaware of Git, definitely stick around. It's probably the most useful and essential program on this list. And I'll show you BitBucket and SourceTree, which are some tools that help you manage Git. Alright, so let's jump right into CopyClip 2. So to get that, the easiest way is to find it on the App Store. You can download on the Mac App Store for $5. I would definitely recommend it. I think it's worth every penny. So if you do install that, and I believe if you visit their website, they have a trial version, so you can try it out before you buy it. But once it's installed, you'll see this little clipboard up here, and if you click on it, it'll open the program. And before I dig into this, I want to show you some of the preferences I use to customize it. Let's get rid of that. So if you hit the little gear and then preferences, the first thing I do is by default I believe it keeps your last 130 copies. That seemed a little excessive to me, so I dropped that down to 20. I switched the theme to dark, and then lastly I gave this a hotkey of Command-Shift-V. This made a lot of sense to me because Command-C is copy and then normally Command-V is paste. Well, Command-Shift-V brings up CopyClip 2, which is a little bit smarter of a paste. So that seemed really natural to me. And I really find this useful. So let me dig into Xcode here and show you what you can do with this. Okay, so jumping into Xcode, let's say you have a few method calls that you want to copy, and it's going to be in a completely different file, so you can't just jump back and forth. There's like, let's say, a bunch of whole different things you want to go after. So you can just grab an item by going Command-C, and let's say you want to grab this method call, and whoops, if I hit the right letters. And you want to grab this, and this, and this. And then you're writing some method, and we'll just call this method for simplicity here. And you know that you had recently copied something that you're interested in. Well, all you have to do is hit that Command-Shift-V, and CopyClip 2 pops up. And you can see a list of all the items that you had copied recently. And I have it set to the last 20, so you can get a whole list here. And you can see, so here is some of the methods that I copied. So you just click on it and it pastes it in there. So it's just basically copy and paste, but a little bit more powerful, a little bit more useful. Now there's a lot of great clipboard managers that can do this functionality, but there's a couple things about CopyClip 2 that really, in my opinion, set it apart. So if we pull up CopyClip 2, the first thing is you can search and filter down your manager. So let's say I just want to find that view did load. Well, I can just type in view did load, and you can see it's right there. So that'll help you dig through, especially if you have 130 copies that you're saving. But the real killer feature here is the ability to pin paste to a hotkey. So to give you an example, we use Git where I work, and with every Git commit we need to provide an associated URL showing where we got that piece of work. So just to give an example here, I'll use Google. But normally it's much more complex with a whole bunch of different things after that I could never possibly remember. And in order to find this URL, I have to open up a whole bunch. I have to go to log into a portal and then go through a whole bunch of different screens, and it's a huge pain. Well, with CopyClip 2, I can just copy this. And if I open up CopyClip 2 here, it'll be stored right here. But what's really cool is I can right-click and then hit Pin. And now this particular paste will never leave Command 1. So now whenever I need that, I just hit Command-Shift-V, Command-1, and I have access to that. Something I don't have to ever worry about. I don't even have to think about it. It's just always there right when I need it. And I found that to be a huge time saver, and I think any programming discipline could find that useful. Alright, so that's CopyClip 2. The next item I want to show you is Typinator, which is a text expander. A link for this will be in the description, but this again has a trial version that you can test out before you buy it. So I'd recommend go ahead and give that trial a shot here, and then you will get this little icon up here. And then if you pop this open, you can see a list of abbreviations that expand out into the full text that you're interested in. So let me show you an example here. So here, CDGen. So Ginevra is an app that I'm working on. So a lot of times in Terminal, I have to go change directory into that folder. So rather than typing in CD, desktop, app development, Ginevra, I can just type in CDGen. And let me show you an example of that. So if I pop open Terminal here, and I type in CDGen, and you can see it just replaces on its own. Super convenient, very fast, don't have to remember a lot. One of my favorite uses is a lot of times I want to see hidden files, but it annoys me to see those in Finder when I don't want them. And I can never remember the command to show and hide them, so I made myself a little shortcut that goes show hidden files. And you can see that pops out as defaults, right, com.apple.finder, Apple show all files, and then I just got to put yes or no. So a big time saver, a way to unload some mental capacity. You don't have to think about it, and I find it to be really useful. Alright, next item on the list here is Fuzzy Autocomplete. Again, the link will be in the description. This is an Xcode plugin you'll download off GitHub. The installation is pretty straightforward. If you guys have any problems, send me a shout out on Twitter, and I'll go into a little bit more detail how to get that started. But hopefully you guys don't have too much of a problem with that. And to show you that, let me jump into Xcode once more. Okay, so the way autocomplete works in Xcode normally is to show you an example. I'm going to do accessibility values on the view. So if I go self.view.accessibility, and you can see it shows you all the completion values. But by default, Xcode only shows you the items if they're in the correct order. So if I want to find accessibility language and I want to autocomplete that, I'd have to type out accessibility fully and then hit an L, and then I could maybe finish it out at that point. But it does have to be in order. Now what Fuzzy Autocomplete does is when that's installed is these no longer have to be consecutive. So now I can hit the L, and you can see if I just type in language a little bit, you got the ACC and then the LAN a language, and then I can just hit enter and get that method. So it's really useful for remembering those long property names, those long method names. A big time saver. It does run really smooth, and it's definitely my favorite plugin for Xcode, and I find it to be a big help. So I'd recommend checking that out, completely free of course. Okay, moving on to the next item is Karabiner. So let me show you the website real quick here. This is completely free. Again, link is in the description. So download this, install it. If something you want to use, make sure it starts up when you log in so it's all ready to go. So when Karabiner is installed, you can see it up in the top here. The icon looks like this. Now Karabiner, what it does is it interfaces between your keyboard and the operating system. So you can do all sorts of customizations. It's really powerful. I have one thing that I use it for, and I'll show you. So if you pop into preferences here, the use I have for it is custom. You can see if you go to miscellaneous and uninstall, and you can see openprivate.xml. This is a file that I had to generate to get exactly what I wanted. I'll post this on GitHub so you guys can have a link to that if you're interested in this. But let me show you what you can do with that. So once more, we'll jump into Xcode. And let me see if I can show you the keyboard here. So while you're typing, if you notice on home row, your hand naturally sits on J, K, and L, and it looks almost like an arrow key with this being up, left, right, and down. So what I use this for is if I hold Command and then grab these keys, they work just like an arrow key, and I never have to move my hand down here or move my hand to the mouse. So it works really well at keeping your hand on the keyboard and moving around a little bit faster. So let's say you forgot a period, you forgot a parenthesis. Well, with my left hand, I just hold Command, and then I back up, type what I need, and then let's say I forgot a period, I add the period, and then I can jump back to where I was. Never have to leave home row. Very quick, very efficient. Then I went a little bit farther with it. If I hold Command and Option, it jumps to the beginning of the line, and then to the end of the line, and then I have it to scroll up and scroll down in Xcode, and then I have it set to Command and the semicolon, pops open my method list, and then I can hold Command and go up and down and select the method I want. So a very quick, a very concise, easy way. Keep your hands on the keyboard and really efficient. But I recommend giving that a try, and the real power of it is you can customize it to be exactly the way you want, and hopefully you'll find a way to help you program a little bit quicker. Okay, and Git is going to be the next item here. So to get Git, the first thing you'll want to do is go to this URL here, which will be provided once again, and get this installed on your computer. Now if you're completely new to Git, by default Git is all run through the command line, so there's a little bit of a learning curve. And I'm actually going to do a whole tutorial video on getting Git installed, setting it up and using it, because I believe it's one of the most important tools for any developer. But right now I'm just going to show you what it can do and why it's useful. So what Git is, it's a version control system that lets you track your changes and jump back and forth to these commits that you make. So to use the example here in the picture, each one of these represents a commit. So you create your project, you create your first commit, you can always jump back to this. Well, you add another item, you add a feature, maybe it's version 2.0, you save these, that's another commit. Well, what's really powerful is, let's say you make some tiny change and it ruins your whole project, we've all been there, you can jump back to a previous commit. That's really powerful and a huge time saver. Now Git can do a whole lot more than that. One of the most powerful features is branching. So let's say I have my master branch here, which is what the naming convention most people use, and then I want to add this crazy feature, but it could ruin the whole app. Well, you make a branch, and then you start making commits on this branch. And then you get to the end, you're like, all right, this feature's done, it works great. Well, what you can then do is open a pull request or a merge request, depending on the platform you're using, and say, hey, my branch is awesome, it works great, will you merge this into master? And Git, if whoever has the authority to approve that, will merge that into master, and that's a really great workflow that a lot of companies are using. So it lets multiple developers all contribute to the same project, have a nice history, good documentation, and a really clean and effective way of working with software. Now I did mention that Git is all ran through the command prompt, so I have some tools that'll help you out with that. And the one here is BitBucket. I've used a couple different GUIs for Git, but this is, in my opinion, the most powerful and the cleanest and easiest one I found. It's completely free. You can download the link that's in the description, and I'll show you an example of a project I'm working on. So if we open up SourceTree here, and this is a pretty simple project I'm just playing around with. I don't have any branches, it's all on master here, but you can see each one of these little dots represents a commit. And you can see that I have a message. So in this commit, I added a refresh control to the table view. And you can see I deleted this and I added this, and here's all the changes, and then this is the file that was changed. In this commit, you can see the two files I changed and what I did. So really great documentation. And then you can see uncommitted changes. These are what I'm working on now. And if I want to keep what I have, I just stage the ones that I'm interested in. So let's say I want to keep this changes to this file. I click the check. Or if I don't want to do the whole thing, I can stage it by hunk, which will do all of this. Or I can even grab it and stage lines. And then once you stage it, it'll pop up into the stage section. And then all you have to do is hit commit. And you get a nice little area to write a commit message. You can see the differences, and it's a very easy way to see a history of your Git. Now what's awesome about SourceTree is extremely powerful. You can work with remotes like BitBucket or GitHub, which I'll show you in a little bit here. You can branch, you can merge, you can do merge conflicts you can resolve, you can see your stashes, you can do all sorts of really powerful stuff. And I think this is a fantastic program with a great interface, and I use it every single day when I work. So highly recommended. Okay, so one other tool for Git here is BitBucket. So the alternative is GitHub. You might already be familiar with that. If you're working on an open source program, GitHub is the way to go. But the advantage with BitBucket is you can get a free private repository, where GitHub you do have to pay. So like I said, I'll have a tutorial video going over this in the future, but you can actually take all your Git changes, push them to the internet, and then you can work on multiple computers, you can have everything in sync and backed up. So I'm a big fan of BitBucket. I use it for my personal projects, and I would highly recommend it. All right, well that wraps up the tools that I use. Let me know if you guys have any other things that you guys find useful, and post in the descriptions, like, comment, subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter if there's a topic you want me to go over in the future. But next week we'll go over episode 1, where we start learning how to write methods, and we'll go over a little dummy app that hopefully you guys will have some fun with. All right, till next time.